Hello everyone, welcome back. Today's story is about four childhood friends, a tragic mistake, and a plan for justice years in the making. Let's begin. John, Shakes, Michael, and Tommy are best friends growing up in Hell's Kitchen, a tight-knit neighborhood where anyone foolish enough to commit a crime against the locals is dealt with swiftly and harshly. The boys serve as altar boys at Holy Angels, the church at the heart of their community. They're devoted to their duties, but they're also known for being mischievous pranksters. One day, Shakes gets his hands on the nun's clacker. He starts clicking it at random, making the girls follow his every command. Father Bobby, the priest at the church, isn't fooled. He knows exactly who's behind the mischief and calmly asks Shakes to hand over the clacker. John and Shakes spend much of their free time in the church. When they're not helping with services, they sneak into the confession booth to eavesdrop on strangers' private confessions. Father Bobby has a complicated past. Once a small-time criminal, he's now a devoted priest, a man the boys see not only as a mentor, but as a trusted friend. He lets Shakes know that he's aware of the confession booth stunt. When Shakes gets defensive, Father Bobby explains he's not angry, he just doesn't want the boys getting themselves into trouble. And then there's Carol, Michael's girlfriend, who's more than happy to join in on the boys' occasional pranks and schemes. One day, Shakes' father shares with the boys the origin story of King Benny, the mafia boss who runs Hell's Kitchen. As a kid, Benny was often bullied, until one day an older man shoved him down a flight of stairs, breaking his front teeth. When he was grown, he walked into a public bathhouse, confronted the man, and left him badly injured. From that day on, no one dared cross King Benny. The story captivates Shakes. Determined to be part of Benny's world, he goes to him for a job. Benny agrees, making Shakes his delivery boy, tasked with carrying bribe money to local police precincts. One afternoon, on his way to a delivery, Shakes is nearly mugged, but an old man steps in with a weapon and stops the attackers, deleting them before they can harm him. Shaken by the encounter, Shakes asks King Benny if his friends can accompany him on future deliveries for safety. Benny agrees. When Father Bobby learns about the boy's new job with King Benny, he decides to bring it up during a casual pickup basketball game. Between shots and playful banter, he tells them that money can be earned through skill and hard work, sharing the story of Michelangelo, who became wealthy after painting the Sistine Chapel for the Pope. But the boys just laugh it off, not taking the lesson to heart. Not long after, during a heated stickball game, Michael notices a girl in a wheelchair cheering for the opposing team. Without saying a word, he deliberately throws the game, letting her side win. Shakes isn't impressed, telling him he could have done something kinder, like buying her an ice cream instead of losing the game. The loss draws the attention of Fat Macho, a local shopkeeper. He warns the boys that if they don't toughen up, the world will chew them up and spit them out. But just like with Father Bobby's advice, the boys shrug it off and go on their way. The following summer, the boys lounge on a rooftop, soaking in the sun. From their perch, Michael spots a hot dog vendor on the street below and hatches a plan to steal his food. Shakes takes on the role of distraction, walking up to the cart, pretending to place an order. The moment the vendor is distracted, Shakes bolts with the hot dog, with the vendor chasing after him. Meanwhile, the rest of the boys help themselves to the cart's contents and, as a prank, wheel the cart a few blocks away. When Shakes finally makes it back, the vendor is still in pursuit. The boys quickly push the cart to the edge of a subway stairwell, planning to hold it until the vendor arrives, then release it so he'd have to save his cart while they made their escape. But the heavy cart slips from their grasp, tumbling down the stairs and slamming into a man, leaving him severely injured. The incident lands them in court, and the punishment is swift. They're sent to a juvenile facility known as the Wilkinson's Home for Boys. From the outside, it looks ordinary, like any other school, but the boys have no idea of the horror that awaits inside. Shakes gets his first taste of the harsh reality at Wilkinson's. Soon after arriving, guard Sean Noakes knocks on his door. Opening the small inspection slot at the top, Noakes orders him to remove his clothes. After an uncomfortable pause, he tells Shakes to get dressed again, then moves on to the other boys' rooms. Noakes isn't the only one to be wary of. There are 3 other guards like him: Ferguson, Styler, and Addison. One day, a fight erupts in the cafeteria between the boys and other inmates. When it's over, Noakes singles them out for humiliation, forcing them to eat the spilled food off the floor. Later that night, as punishment, the 4 guards physically and emotionally mistreat them. The ordeal leaves the boys deeply scarred. They write to their parents and loved ones, telling them not to visit. But that doesn't stop Father Bobby, who continues to come. Noakes warns Shakes not to breathe a word to Father Bobby about what's happening. When Father Bobby sees Shakes, he notices the weight loss and the sadness in his eyes. He asks Shakes if he is okay. Shakes insists he is fine. Before leaving, Father Bobby tells him to stay strong, not to let the place break him, and assures him he will be okay. But despite his words, the mistreatment at the hands of the guards continues. Each week, the guards play football against the inmates, a game the inmates are expected to lose. For the boys, it's just another way to get hurt. But one day, Michael decides to turn the tables. He approaches Rizzo, a strong black inmate whom the others respect, and asks for his help. Rizzo refuses at first, saying the guards leave him alone. Michael explains that to the guards, every inmate is just an animal, treated with the same disregard, and this game is their only chance to make the guards feel what they feel. Eventually, Rizzo agrees. In the next game, the inmates come out swinging, hitting, shoving, and injuring the guards just as they've been injured before. They win, but the victory is short-lived. As payback, the guards assault them and lock them in isolation for days. When they're finally taken to the hospital, Michael tells Shakes the grim truth. Rizzo didn't make it. The guards had beaten him to deletion. A year passes and Shakes is up for release. He offers to talk to Father Bobby to try to get the others out early, but the boys can't bring themselves to talk about what happened. They're certain no one would believe them. They make a pact to keep the truth hidden. Even on Shakes' last night, the mistreatment doesn't stop. He and his friends are humiliated and assaulted once again. 13 years later, Tommy and John walk into McHale's, a bar in Hell's Kitchen. They're no longer the boys they once were. Now they lead a gang called the Westside Boys, hardened criminals who make their living through violence. Inside, they spot Noakes sitting alone. They approach his table, and at first, Noakes doesn't recognize them. When they tell him their names, the memory returns, but he shows no sign of remorse. Instead, he asks what they want. John answers that he's waited years for this moment, and then he and Tommy open fire. A couple sitting nearby quickly look away and cover their ears. Moments later, the two men leave the bar, their target lying motionless, and the couple still frozen in fear at what they've just witnessed. After the events at McHale's, John and Tommy are arrested for the crime and sent to jail while awaiting trial. Shakes visits them, unaware of who their target had been, until John tells him it was Sean Noakes from the Wilkinsons' home for boys. Meanwhile, Michael has built a very different life. He is now an assistant district attorney in New York. He reaches out to Shakes, asking to meet and discuss the Noakes case. He explains that this is their chance, the opportunity to finally bring down the guards and expose the horrors of Wilkinson's. Shakes admits he has tried to bury the past, but Michael makes it clear he has always wanted justice. Michael shares what's become of the remaining 3 guards. Styler is now a narcotics officer, Addison works in the mayor's office, and Ferguson is employed in social services. Michael then outlines his plan. He will personally prosecute John and Tommy, calling Ferguson as a character witness for Noakes. Once Ferguson is on the stand, the trial will turn toward the truth of what happened at Wilkinson's. The case will be carefully staged to reveal the abuse while keeping John and Tommy's motive hidden, ensuring they are not convicted. For Michael's plan to work, he explains that they'll need 2 things: a lawyer for John and Tommy who will follow his lead, and a witness who can place them somewhere else at the time of the crime. Word of the plan reaches King Benny through a letter, which he burns after reading. Shakes then meets with Fat Macho in person, asking for his help as well. King Benny secures a lawyer named Danny Snyder, someone who will follow Michael's instructions. Later, he meets with Shakes and admits that while he has arranged the lawyer, he couldn't find anyone willing to be a witness in John and Tommy's favor. That's when Shakes, joined by Carol, go to Father Bobby and asks him to take on that role. Father Bobby gets upset at the request to lie and demands to know why he should help. In that moment, Shakes finally tells him everything, what Noakes and the other guards did to him and the others at Wilkinson's. Carol listens quietly, hearing the full story for the first time. After hearing him out, Father Bobby says he needs time to think and will let Shakes know his decision. With Father Bobby still considering his request, Shakes turns his attention to another part of the plan. He meets with Davenport from the NYPD's Internal Affairs Division, handing him photographs of Styler accepting bribes from drug dealers, along with a weapon linked to a recent deletion, one that carries Styler's fingerprints. Meanwhile, King Benny approaches Little Caesar, a powerful drug lord, and tells him that Addison was the one who deleted his little brother Rizzo 13 years earlier. Soon after, Addison is captured, beaten, and taken out of the city, where he is deleted by Little Caesar's men. Around the same time, Davenport arrests Styler on charges of bribery and deletion. With the plan in motion, the trial begins. Michael questions the two witnesses who claim they saw the crime, and both testify that John and Tommy were the ones responsible. But when Snyder takes his turn, his questions reveal that the witnesses were frightened during the incident and had their eyes closed when the shots were fired. In truth, they didn't actually see the attackers. Next, Ferguson is called as a character witness for Noakes. Unaware of what's coming, he takes the stand confidently. Michael asks him to describe Noakes' character, and Ferguson calls him a good man, his best friend, and someone with no enemies. Then Snyder begins his cross-examination. Under pressure, Ferguson cracks, confessing that he, Noakes, and the other guards had beaten, mistreated, and assaulted boys at Wilkinson's. Shaken, he asks to leave, and the judge excuses him, ordering the jury to disregard his testimony as it will be stricken from the record. Michael's part of the case is finished, but Father Bobby's testimony is still undecided. The judge gives Snyder a day to bring him in. Later, one of King Benny's men retrieves an envelope hidden inside a missal at Holy Angels. The next day, Father Bobby stops by Fat Macho's shop to buy cigarettes and is discreetly handed an envelope along with his purchase. The next morning, Michael also receives an envelope, this one containing a letter. When court resumes, Father Bobby takes the stand. He testifies that John and Tommy were with him at a basketball game at the time of the crime, producing ticket stubs as proof. The jury reaches its decision. John and Tommy are found not guilty. 4 months later, the boys and Carol gather at a restaurant. They eat, drink, and laugh together, enjoying each other's company. With justice finally served for what happened to them as kids, they're ready to leave the past behind and move on with their lives. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.